All right. Well, welcome everybody to MVP Office Hours, number 108. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm a solution architect with Aperio and Salesforce MVP. I help lead the office hours with Jackie Travieso and Dale Ziegler, who are unfortunately not able to be with us today. But they help me keep this thing afloat here, so I definitely appreciate them. If you're not following us on the Twitterverse at MVP Office Hours, definitely follow us. We post all of our recordings as well as announce the upcoming office hours there. And then you can also join the group on the Success community, and the easiest way to get to that is officehours.info. It'll take you right there. We just always like to cover a lot of the upcoming events that we have. And in case you haven't known or seen, there are there's a Dream-In for almost everywhere in the continental U.S., and I'm just waiting for them to happen worldwide, which I'm sure there are, and I just don't know about them, but we're definitely expanding there. It's good to see this list getting longer and longer. You can see there's a lot there. We called out last time one that I think was just recently organized or so, the Witness Success. It's happening right, as you can see, right after Midwest Dream-In. So that's for all the women in technology. Definitely check that out. And then all those Dream-Ins come. And so check out those. If this is your first time to the office hours, welcome. We're definitely glad to have you. This is an open Q&A discussion. We do this every first and third Friday of each month. We kind of hold a motto of no question or topic too big or too small, so don't feel like you're asking a dumb question. We're here to help, however small or big that may be, and whatever level you are within your Salesforce journey. So we record this and we'll post it out to Twitter. We also post it to that group on the Success community. So definitely check those out there. And just because it is open Q&A, we just ask you mute your lines if you can, so we can hear the questions and the answers clearly. If you want to ask a question, you can either raise your hand in the chat, or if we're just asking for people to ask a question, if we've got some dead air, feel free to just speak up. And then all we ask is that you announce yourself when you're asking or answering a question, just so we know who the person is behind the curtain. Feel free to share. If you feel like you can help out with a question, definitely chime in. That's what we're all about here. So, with all that said, the real reason we're here today, we've got Deepa Patel on, who is a longtime MVP Office Hours participant, helper, extraordinaire, whatever you want to call it. And Deepa's got a lot of experience with Salesforce, having been on a lot of different sides. So we're really excited to have Deepa and her expertise here to help you today. One of the big things that I've seen Deepa do is around the certification study groups. So if you are looking at getting a certification that maybe you don't have and you have questions around that, definitely bring those up. But Deepa, welcome. Thanks for being a special guest. And anything you want to say before we get started?
Well, thank you for inviting me back. And it's been a while since I've been on the office hours, so I'm honored to be here. I am more than happy to help anybody who have questions. Obviously, I have my own consulting practice. It's called DPCRM Guru as well, and happy to answer any questions. If you have questions about migrating to Lightning, you have questions about Pardot, any questions you might have, please let me help you. I'm here for that.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's, with that being said, see here. I do have a couple kind of questions. We've started to do this by a show of virtual hands within the meeting. Interested in how many are looking to become certified, and that could be adding a certification or simply getting maybe your admin certification. Okay, good. Got several in there. Awesome. Hopefully we'll hear some questions from you guys. And then curious how many people on the line are currently using Pardot, or maybe getting ready to implement it or use it or have interest in it. Okay. Cool.
Can you elaborate on the numbers by any chance?
Yeah, we had one raise their hand for Pardot, and probably 2 for Pardot, sorry, or 4 or 5 for becoming certified or getting an additional certification. So
okay.
Yeah. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I'm any resources that come up, I'll put them into our deck, and we'll share those out in the group. So who wants to ask the first question? Don't be shy.
Nobody?
Somebody's got to have a question.
Yeah.
You can.
Is everybody here just in listen-only mode today?
Maybe.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How many of you are planning to move to Lightning or even thinking about it? Just speak up, because I can't see show of hands or anything like that.
Sorry, I was on mute. This is Carlos Villafando. How are you guys?
Hey, Carlos.
I'll just answer with, yes, we are, and we actually have helped out a couple other clients. And the only thing that I have to say is there's no going back.
That is true. There's no going back. Lightning is here to stay forever. So for those of you who are on the call, let's just say, has anyone already, besides you, Carlos, has anyone already started moving to Lightning? Wow, I've got a quiet group today.
Cal has a question that's not necessarily related to Lightning, it's related to Pardot. Cal, you want to ask your question, or?
Sure. I've helped a couple people. Apparently, when you set up Pardot or Pardot, however it's pronounced, I guess it depends on what part of the country you're from. The setup asks you to install a controller using Eclipse, as I understand it, which confuses a lot of people who aren't developers. Can you tell us what that's about and why they do that?
Controller for what?
I'd have
I have not had the need to install a controller at all, and my Pardot is connected to my production Salesforce org. And leads and contents sync back and forth, and even fields sync back and forth. So what is the controller for? Do we know?
I'd have to go back and look at her question. It's one of our local admins in this area, and I remember her posting it on Stack Exchange, and since I knew who she was, I did my best to try to help her out. It was when they were setting.
I do not see any reason to install a controller with Eclipse. I mean, is she trying to go after the Pardot API outside of that? Because Pardot allows you to connect Pardot with multiple applications, and as long as you have the application available to do the integration or do the connection from within Pardot, I don't see a reason to installing a controller unless she's trying to use the API to connect to something that is not supported by Pardot yet, and she's trying to do it from the outside.
This was sometime like a year or so ago, and she was trying to connect to a Salesforce org.
Yeah, you don't need that
Pardot
anymore at all. No. So
okay.
the actual connector setup is very easy. Like at least right now, like all I had to do was go into the admin area, actually go to the connector. There's a separate option on the menu to say connector, and when you go there, you can define different type of connectors, and you select Salesforce, and you provide your admin user ID and password, and it'll link to Salesforce.
Okay.
What I had to do was I had to go into my Salesforce org and install the Pardot package so that I could see the Pardot campaigns and all of that from a lead record and contact record, because those are the two where you want it, right? Like, and the package installs the connection that's needed to see if there's an opportunity that has been created. So I did have to install the package from the App Exchange.
Right. Apparently, at the time, they may not have had a package on the App Exchange, is what I suspect.
Well, if it was a year ago, it's completely different now, right?
Yes.
So if she still, I would reach out to her and see if she still has a problem, and if she does.
Oh, well, obviously they've resolved it. Now, I was able to help her understand how Eclipse did it. To get her taken care of at the time. And so that's why I was asking the question, because it seemed rather bizarre to me at the time that they were dumping a controller in with no test class or anything else. So
No.
Okay.
It's a fairly seamless connector now.
All right. Well, it makes sense that it would be now. Like I said, this was, at least a year ago, and I understand in the early days things were rather obscure, and Salesforce had time.
Yeah. Well, they acquired the product, so it took them a little bit to integrate it. Now it's pretty well integrated.
Sure. Yeah. The same thing with ExactTarget. The early days were
and Marketing Cloud
challenging.
is fairly well integrated as well. I have a marketing, actually I have a training org, but I went through my email specialist certification, and it's pretty well integrated as well, where you can go and grab Salesforce data and create data sets and all of that. And it's a lot more complex than Pardot, but it's pretty well done now as well.
Okay. Well, thanks for answering that question.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Does that inspire other people to ask questions?
This is not a question, but Stuart Adil posted in the chat just that he didn't necessarily have problems right now moving to Lightning. But his problem, in a way, is that he has a managed package that is not Lightning ready and still uses some features, so he can't move over. So I'm sure that's
but is that managed package impacting sales, or is it managed package like doing something else? Stuart?
He says that via chat that impacts the entire reason they have Salesforce.
Okay. Well, I guess you have to wait till, the company comes up with a Lightning compliant application. That's kind of hard. I'm surprised they're not already Lightning compliant, but I guess it depends on what the package is. Any other questions? I like hearing people's voices.
Come on, somebody's got to have a question here.
Yeah.
Well, this is Virginia. Since you head up the study group, which
Yes.
I am a part of, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I am in the study group for the Platform Dev 1. I'm going to take the
With
leap.
Jeremiah?
Yes, I am. And I'm set up for Destination. I went ahead and pulled the trigger on Destination Success for a little bit of extra studying on my behalf. But, I probably know enough about Apex to actually be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
How would somebody like me who's moving into that area, it's like when I'm in code, I do okay, but when I'm just starting to get my head back into it again, I feel like I'm lost in the desert. Where would somebody like me go find someone to help me with a little bit of one-on-one type of work?
So, well, it depends on the one-on-one type of work. Are you looking for one-on-one type of work to help you with code in your system, in Salesforce, in your production org, or while you're studying?
Well, yeah. So, if I'm writing a piece of code, I'd like to have somebody that I can say, am I going the right direction? Is this the right avenue? And to kind of help me, guide myself through the code. Just a second set of eyes to make sure I'm not overlooking something. My code works, which is great, but we all know it can be better. I know it can be better.
Yeah, like best practices for writing code,
exactly.
right? Like, am I writing
somebody to
this
go,
the right way?
Yeah, what were you thinking? Yeah, somebody to look at a piece of code and go, what were you thinking here? And for me to go, I don't know.
Okay. So unfortunately, because I don't write code, that's why I have Jeremiah running that, because he knows how to do that.
And he's
I'm
doing
going to
great,
suggest
by the way.
that, let me ask, we've got a couple people on the call here, a couple MVPs, and say, does Stack Exchange promote that kind of questions where somebody can post a code and say, can somebody please help me if I'm on the right track here?
Yeah,
Do you guys
absolutely.
know?
Seen it. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people post their code out there and ask why it's not working, or explain what you're trying to accomplish with it, and people do that.
So one way, so I can think of a few things. One is the Stack Exchange.
Right.
The second is there are I know that there are a couple women in Women in Tech group who are working on the code. God, I'm forgetting the names. But I'm thinking if even Adam Oslansky, right? He does a lot of community work. So you can try and reach out to some of those people who are the women who code, who's running that program?
Are you thinking the RAD program? Because I came
the
through
RAD
that.
program, yeah, all the women that are in the RAD program.
And I came to that program, and I still reach back out to them. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Reach out to the mentors who are in the RAD program and say, hey, can I just get a second pair of eyes to make sure that I'm doing this right? And are these the best practices?
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. That's I hadn't thought about that. Thank you.
Because they're there for mentoring women, right? What the whole program is designed to help women learn coding, and a lot of the women who are in that group actually help out in the community. And so I would say reach out to them and say, I just need a second pair of eyes. I want to make sure I'm using the best practices, and who knows, it might foster a really great conversation.
Yeah, I'm really good at looking at existing code. It's writing code from scratch where I know my weakness is. So it's kind of a weird dichotomy. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, so if you look at if you go, I haven't been in the RAD program because I know that my brain cells do not think like a programmer at all. And it's I would literally go bald if I tried to do programming. or even trying to learn to code, but do they, in the RAD program, do they have any kind of scenario based where they say, okay, here we're going to give you a scenario and you go develop it? Like, do they guide you that way?
Yeah, that's exactly what they do. So I think you're right.
Okay.
I think kind of going back to that group and maybe posting some questions there and maybe finding somebody who can do some one-on-one, just to kind of bounce ideas and go, am I on the right track with some of this? So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I would go there. I think that's going to be like the best resource for you.
Yep.
I would highly recommend that you try to follow certain blogs or regularly read the questions that are asked on Stack Exchange, on Salesforce Stack Exchange. There are a lot of these kind of questions that are asked where advice is given on best practices and examples are given. So you'll see a lot of code posted, some of it not so great, and then you'll see answers that are posted that give outstanding code.
Right. Yeah, and Google's been my friend. Let's put it that way. Me and Google, we're tight. We're tight.
Well,
like
let me tell you, there's an even better way. There's an engine called findsf.info. And it's a Salesforce specific search engine.
Nice.
And you won't get all that extra
Wow.
garbage in that you're going to find. It'll have like about 6 tabs that'll come up. One of them will be documentation. Another one will be boards, which will include the Salesforce boards, the Stack Exchange boards, and so forth. You'll get blogs, videos, and code, and so forth that'll come up related to whatever search query that you ran. It's powered by Google, but whoever wrote it knew what they were doing, so that it threw out at least most of the stuff that's unrelated.
Nice.
I use it every day.
We don't know who maintains that, right?
No, I do not, but I've been using it for years and can't say enough good things about it. And it's findsf.info.
And it's very simple.
Yes, it is.
I'm not seeing any tabs when the main.
You have to actually do a search.
Yeah, I think you have to do
you have to run a
Okay.
search. Initially, you'll just get a box, and once you put in whatever keywords you want, the results will return.
Okay, yeah.
And you're
So-
going to
It's like
see
he
all
has a
these
Twitter
tabs.
handle if you want to sneak up on whoever is building it.
Yeah.
There's
an about.
Yeah.
Find
No,
SF.
Find SF. Find
.info.
.info. Yeah.
Yeah. Findsf.info. Yeah. Dan Appleman has a search engine also, but he doesn't split his stuff apart like this one does.
Right.
And so I think it's far superior to what Dan wrote.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
I guess
Great,
our
thank
study group comes up on there, which is awesome. As a blog.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I submit my blog to these guys. I don't know who it is. Anyways, neither here or there. All right. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Thank you. Sometimes
welcome.
I'm my own worst enemy, so it's kind of hard. I'm starting to get lost in the forest, and I can't see the forest for the trees, and I'm having to step back and take a deep breath and get my head back in the game. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Who's next? Let's hear all the lovely voices. We've got about 20 people on board? How many people do we have?
We have 14 on the call.
Lots of wonderful people. Say hello. No questions? Everyone's so quiet. Who's ready for Super Bowl? Nobody's even answering that. I guess I cannot encourage anybody to speak today.
Surprised, yeah.
I'm really surprised. I've never had this. Like, I remember for the full year that I used to be on the calls, there were always questions, always, always, always.
Well, what's your experience been so far with migrating customers to Lightning? How about you tell us that?
Okay, sure. So it's not an easy task. The thing is, the biggest thing is having a good strategy. I'm working with a customer right now. It's a global company, and they have about 1,800 Salesforce users. And at a high level, the customer decided that they want to move the sales department, U.S. sales, onto Lightning. And originally, Salesforce was set up a long time ago, and everything is extremely highly customized, highly customized, including the new button being overwritten with Visualforce pages. So it's a challenge. And so we did a requirements gathering on what is it that the U.S. sales needs right now. You know, and it's like we want to see our pipeline, we want to be able to add multiple contacts, we want to do this. So we got a set of requirements that we can absolutely deliver. Now what I am doing is I'm trying to peel the onion back and in the sandbox go, okay, how do I bring this highly customized Salesforce back to out-of-the-box Salesforce? That means like be able to come back and kick off the master account record, and it doesn't help, we have person accounts, master contact record, like master opportunity, and bypass all of them, and you know, you got 500 fields on accounts, 200 fields on opportunities. It's like, it's not about fields, like nobody's using it. So it's not about fields. It's about the process. Like the one thing we all know, Salesforce always places emphasis on the process. And unfortunately in the past, most businesses, because they could focus on hundreds of fields going, we absolutely need this. And that's what decreases adoption. So we're kind of taking the approach of going back to the absolute basics, like start with the standard fields that we need for an account, contact, opportunity, and even put it in two different places, like have two different views, that the sales guys have the minimum view that they need, and then sales operations can deal with all the other fields that they need because there's integrations with external systems, and put it out there so that the sales reps can start using it on their iPads and their phone. And we're running into quite a few challenges because it's like, oh, this is integrated, but this information is not coming, you know. And so we literally had to peel the onion back and say, how do I go back to the absolute core that's in the middle and show that to the business units and then build on top of that. So like instead of getting a brand new org, we're like literally coming back to the absolute basics. So we've got a pilot group of about 25 reps. So the strategy has to start from the VP of the business unit or the business users and go, who is our pilot group? What is our goal? What do we want to do? What do we want to see as far as our KPIs are concerned? And then come back and design the migration with that one pilot group, look at what's working, not what's working, what the challenges are, and then gradually roll it out to the other groups. And that's the exact process we're going through right now. Now, it's easier to help smaller companies because they don't have that much migration or they don't have that much customization. The biggest key is, What is the customization that's been done? How complex is it? And is it anything that we can take that out of those Visualforce pages and move it into the back end using Process Builder and Flow? For example, we have the new button that has a Visualforce page that looks at a contact, looks for a particular information within the data within Salesforce, and if it doesn't exist, it goes to an external database, looks for that information, comes back and populates it. And unfortunately, that entire process is embedded behind the new button until the record is saved. So there's a lot of companies who've done things like that. Well, what I'm saying is let's not stop the reps from creating those contact records. Let's move that verification process into either a process builder or a flow, more likely a flow, because the Apex code has the connections to go look at the API to the third-party engine and bring data back. And let's create a flow with that same code so we don't have to rewrite the code. And then this way, after the record is created, the Salesforce backend automation engine looks for that data, brings it back. If it just does not exist, we display a flag on the record saying this we do not find what we were looking for. And that way the rep knows that what information we were looking for does not exist in the external database or does not exist anywhere, and then they can take action accordingly. So when you look at the migration, you have to look at what can we take out and what can we leave, because honestly now if you absolutely wanted to have the Visualforce component, it was like, no, that is an absolute requirement, which is maybe, let's say, a GUI to go through certain process, because if you really think about it, Visualforce was used to create the UI interface that worked with the Apex code in the back. Now, I'm not a developer, but at least I understand that much. And if someone absolutely says we need that exactly, even if it looks archaic compared to the Lightning UI, then what you need to do is say, okay, how do I wrap this in a component so that it works in Lightning? Like put it in a Lightning component so that at least you have it working, and then eventually you go, okay, how are we going to improve this user experience? Because all of a sudden from Lightning now you're taken into a archaic UI, and then you come back to Lightning. So those are the kind of things you really have to evaluate and go, what are we doing here? What is this process? What's it going to take for us to move it? And for some people it might take a year to move. Some people it might take a couple months to move. It depends. Is this fostering any questions? Silence again. Do the other MVPs have anything to add to what I talked about? Did I lose everybody, or is everybody still here?
No, I think I agree. I mean, a lot of it, right, is like there with some of the functionality that's not there yet. You definitely have to do some evaluating on the front end, and especially for existing orgs, there's a lot more that has to be done, and out, group by group, doing a lot of testing. I think is definitely the way to go.
It can be done. You just have to literally evaluate what is your code base, what is it used for, and what can you take out of that code base and put it into a Lightning component to fit it into your Lightning model. Because if you really think about it, one thing that I absolutely love about Lightning is what I call the Lightning pages, which is kind of an overlay on top of your page layout. And what that allows you to do is you can literally have one page layout and control field visibility with field level security, but then have different Lightning page layouts that are rendered differently in different applications. Like sales can have a page layout, support can have a page layout, and they can be completely different. And in the back end, you're not really creating duplicate page layouts in the sense of Salesforce page layout, because the fields and the related lists can come from that page layout, but the rest you can have all different kinds of components. And Julian Bruce is doing a fantastic job of showing different examples on the Salesforce blog site on all the different things you can do with different page layouts. And I love this flexibility of being able to be a little bit more creative and a little bit more visual for your end users than just the way it was with the static page layouts we had. Like, I mean, even though you're not creating more than one column, like you still have the 2 columns, but you still have the ability to drag and drop components on that page layout, which makes it a very interesting way of rendering data to your end users. So how many of you have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is Carlos, and building a little bit on that, something that people need to start thinking, it's a different paradigm from Classic. Like you're saying, in Classic, a lot of stuff was a little bit more static. There is a feature that people kind of like oversee, and it's super powerful, and it's something that is embedded in Lightning that are called events. And you have the components when you throw them into a page. These components are talking to the other components on the page, and they're listening at the same time. So as an admin or as a developer, when you start understanding this event, the power of them unleashes, right? You can have an event on the page, and as simple as like a refresh event, and then other component can talk to that. So the effect that happens is that you can modify a field in a page, and when you hit save or when you hit commit, or even when you click the value of pick list, all the other events can react to that situation. So other type of events that are there is hide and show the whole component. So there are situations where you can have a pick list value driving parts of the page being rendered on demand, right? So if you have, let's say that you're on a lead and you have a lead status, and the lead status open, it only requires one section of the page. That's the only thing that you will see. But when you put the lead status to be worked or contacted, you need more information. You can technically tell the page to say, hey, when the field of this value is true, render this other component that is going to ask more questions, right? Or render a dashboard component, or render, there are a lot of stuff to do around that. So when you start thinking about those possibilities, it changes your design. So now someone had mentioned that there's a lot of functionality that is not there. It's true. There are things that are not there, and things that they're never going to be there, that they're going to force us to rethink the way that we do stuff. So my learning and Lightning so far, the biggest thing has been to think in a different paradigm. That if we try to do things in Lightning the same way that we're doing them in Classic, you're going to have a lot of headaches. So it works differently, it behaves differently, it's a completely different paradigm. So if you understand the paradigm of Lightning first, it's going to be a lot more smoother, right? It still needs a lot of work, but in general, or my experience has been the users that we have put in there from day one, they learn Salesforce a lot faster than putting users in the past into Classic. So that's
is this Carlos?
On the Lightning. This is Carlos, yes.
Okay, Carlos, do you, and I think this is a great resource. I don't know if we have something like this. Is there a place that the developers can go to understand that paradigm, the concept of the paradigm that you're talking about? As I can tell you the current client I'm at, they can definitely use that, because nobody is thinking about how Lightning components, like I think what it is they're developing technical expertise but not the thought process behind it. Do you have any resources that talks about the paradigm shift?
I don't. Actually, I'm working on a blog post and on a presentation for one of the trainings. I'm going in March to South America to present on this. So once that I have it ready, I'll publish it. But no, I don't think that there's much out there. This was out of my own experience with my own developers. They are fantastic.
No, yeah, I get it, but
they could not pass that. And I can even tell you the day that one of my senior developer, when he clicked on his head this advanced functionality, and the stuff that they're producing now is a lot better, right? So maybe we need to reach out to Jillian and them and say, hey, have you thought about, putting more resources around this area?
Like kind of talk about the paradigm shift. Yeah, I mean, I think we can reach out to her and say, can you do a webinar or can you do something about explaining the paradigm shift? Because, I mean, I think the major concept out there is that, this is classic interface, this is Lightning UI. And, yeah, it's Java-based, but I don't think that people quite completely realize that there's a shift in how you think. Like even on just the declarative side, like you can think about the shift. Like that's what I was talking about. Like I love this, what I'm calling it an overlay page, which is not the correct terminology. Please do not repeat that. Please do not repeat that. But that's the way in my mind I use it, that now I have the flexibility to define different user experience with that. Like, I mean, it's like I'm not just tied to the page layout itself.
Deepa, can I say something here? I started to a moment ago. Part of what's happening here, and Salesforce is finally going to come in and help make some of this easier for end user orgs to do some of this. Lightning is a multi-page application. For regular web developers, they think of them as flexi pages, where the entire application loads all at once, and it shows and hides what it needs to as it becomes available. It's very similar to a mobile application, even though it's on the desktop. What ISVs have been doing, those are our Salesforce partners, by the way, folks, who create the AppExchange apps. They have been creating server-side controllers that handle the field-level security along with your CRUD security, the read and write.
Yeah, CRUD. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Salesforce is coming out with Lightning Data Services and another service, which I can't recall exactly. The two of them together are actually going to handle this so that you won't need this server-side controller, because anyone who releases a Lightning component for the AppExchange has to be able to perform field-level security and CRUD security. So the idea that you can create your own Lightning component and then put it up on the AppExchange is a little bit misleading if you don't still have a Salesforce server-side controller that talks with that component.
I was referring to someone creating internally within their org.
I understand that, okay?
Okay.
But that security is still important. When you do that, that's what allows you to handle all of these different layers that you're talking about, because the user's machine that's out there doesn't have that information available to them. And it's this paradigm of having that information that allows the application to be able to make these kinds of decisions on the fly. And Salesforce is going to begin making that information available to your applications by providing the Lightning Data Service. You're going to see that coming in the spring. In essence, they're going to provide a controller for everybody's applications on the controller side, on the server side, that your components can access without you having to write it.
And that's and that's been part of the challenge. As I work for an ISV, and we keep being asked, well, when are you going to have Lightning components? And the challenge is that our company isn't going to let us take, a year to go out and rewrite our product. We've got a pretty large product. They're not going to let us go off and rewrite the product as a whole. And part of the problem has been just what you described, is that those back-end components that we take for granted in the MVC domain, having those controllers just isn't there. And it's not worth it to take resources to go build something when Salesforce should have been offering that to begin with.
Absolutely. It's not a trivial task to handle the security that we're talking about.
That's right. That's right.
It is not trivial at all. And your customers who are creating these Lightning components have huge responsibilities in terms of vulnerabilities that they have to code for and protect their organizations against when they create Lightning components.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, and this goes back to what I was telling you about this breaking this paradigm, right? These security issues are pretty big. The paradigm on how the developers have to think, and I had heard from my developers that why is this more difficult than at first hand looks that it to be, right? But at least from the design perspective of applications, once that you have business situations there, I understand that if it took you 100,000 hours to code your application, you need to have a very good reason to redo it, right? But once that you go over that hurdle, if you take the money implications out of it, and you start just thinking just for a second on a vacuum the technology side, once that you break those paradigms, a lot of stuff becomes a lot easier. And I've seen it with my own developers, the way that they think on and design applications and reuse applications, right? That they have implications even all the way to the declarative side, the ability to net components into each other and things like that. But it boils down to what you were saying. There are things right now still on the Salesforce backend side that they haven't been fully sorted. Components that we did a year ago, we are having to redo Gratis to some of our clients to now comply with local servers, right?
Yeah. Things have already been deprecated that came out a year ago.
I'm sure.
It's a moving target.
The point was everybody needs to start thinking about moving, and it's like you need to evaluate what can be moved and what cannot be moved, right? Like, and it comes back to the process, like, can you move the simple processes over? Like, do you have groups that are using simple processes that are just out of the box and not reliant on every piece of code that you've developed? So I think like the first thing, I think it's going to take a lot of companies this full year to just go do an analysis on, can we move all of this before they even consider moving it?
I agree. My prediction on this, what will happen is it's going to be the Windows XP syndrome again, all over again, where there are going to be some companies that they're just going to get so stuck on the magnitude of it that they're going to do nothing, and it's going to be 5 years from now, and they're still going to be running Classic, and Salesforce is pushing so hard that they are, a lot of new functionality is only available in Lightning.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting for me. One of our principles is it just doesn't like it, right? Because it's not stable, because of what you just said, right? We just wrote something right now, and 12 months from now, it got deprecated, so on and so forth. And then yesterday, I showed him the autocomplete feature for addresses on Lightning, and I blew his head, and he's like, "Oh, what company is doing that?" I was like, Salesforce. What do you have to add? Nothing. Just we have to turn Lightning on. So it's this. Right now, my position on that is just what you said. Is people have to start thinking very, very hard. How are they going to do this switch? Because
exactly. Start analyzing now. Yes.
It is going to happen, right? Salesforce has made that decision that it's going to happen, and it might morph 2 or 3 times, but it's just going to happen.
Well, it's going to happen because of competitive reasons as well, right? I was just recently reading an article on LinkedIn, and there are some smaller companies out there that are coming out with better interfaces and, functionality because they don't have to deal with this legacy code the way Salesforce has to, but they're coming out with more robust technologies, and it's like Salesforce has to move to stay competitive as well. So it's a life cycle. I don't know, Carlos, were you doing Salesforce when they moved from the old Aloha UI to the current?
We did one, and we only did it. So we did one client, and it was a very small group, kind of a pilot group. But our position right now for our company is any net new client to Salesforce, we don't even.
They all go on Lightning.
Yep. They all go on Lightning. It has been painful. We have bumped into very, very stupid things that they're missing. An example, field history. It was not there. It's tracked, but it's not rendered. So we got caught literally 2 weeks before going to production with a large client and realized that, oops, this is not there. So we had to quickly whip up a component to realize that the actual Salesforce official component is being released in 2 weeks from now. So, we had to code 24 hours for something that is going to last 2 months. So, yeah, definitely there's some perils there. But to answer your question, no, we have only moved one client that we have convinced. We think that we have another one potentially for moving. And we have right now 5 clients in production on Lightning or about to go into production.
Yeah. So I've been setting up new clients on Lightning as well, right? I'll say I had moved a few clients from the old to the new, and it was the same thing. It was well, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and eventually everybody came on board, and that was history. I think that's what's going to happen here too. I think this is a little bit more painful because there was a longer time in innovation, and a lot of companies went and built a ton of code. So it's a lot more painful this time. But, the reality is everybody has to start thinking and analyze it, start the analyzing, analysis process now. Especially with Spring 17. It's they're introducing so many features, so it's important to start the process now. If you start the process now, by the end of the year, you'll have a strategy.
And the last part that we'll say on that on Spring now, and I'll get off my soapbox of preaching Lightning. Officially, Spring 17 puts Sales Cloud on feature parity. That doesn't mean stuff works the same. That means that the features are there, and the perfect example is the lead conversion. There's lead conversion on Lightning. It just works completely different, and people just don't like getting their cheese moved. So I'll leave you with that comment.
Any questions from anybody? It seems like we're just talking amongst ourselves. Hopefully we've parted with some good information for you guys.
Yeah, no, this has been good, and unfortunately we kind of have to wrap up, but I feel like it's been a good discussion. I mean, Lightning experience, obviously a big topic, and they continue to add a lot of stuff to it, which is definitely nice to see. But yeah, I know we did have a question during that discussion that came in. Squire had a question on what your thoughts were on what the next cert to come out from Salesforce would be, that you know of.
Oh my God, there are so many. What Salesforce is doing now is they're breaking out the certs by different areas. Like there are vertical certifications, there are expertise certifications. I would suggest that you go on the certification site, Salesforce's official certification site and start looking at all the different certs, because there's a Commerce Cloud certification, there's like a healthcare certification, there's a field service certification. There's so many, so it's not just like Admin 201 and then Advanced Admin, or they're really branching out into different areas of expertise, and they're taking a whole new approach of certifications by expertise. So I would say go look at that site and see if there's something that you're interested in or something that you're currently doing that can help you. Eventually, all those certs lead into the technical architect, but I think they're going to also have a different architect, not just a technical architect. So I would say the best place to go look is a university like the Salesforce certifications website.
Well, I guess what I was wondering more so, I don't know we're out of time, but what are you hearing that there isn't a cert for that you're like, boy, I wish they'd come up with that?
I honestly don't know how to answer that question. In fact, I'm a little overwhelmed that they have so many now.
Okay.
Because then it's like there's not a clear path per se because there's so many. And it's like, okay, I'm going to get certified in CPQ. Does that mean that I'm going to be an expert on the manufacturing and, the whole pricing module? What it does is it gives everybody a great option to branch out into different expertise areas. But there's not something that's a higher level for overall general certification. It's all now by expertise.
Yeah. No, for sure. There's definitely a lot coming out. Cal posted in there, CPQ is in beta this month. And
I just got an email for field service beta.
Yeah, field service is in beta. Yeah, so that's going to be coming up in beta. I don't think it's released right now, but signups are there. But yeah,
I think there's also there's going to be a Commerce Cloud beta. So it's like what they're doing is they're trying to get expertise by the type of different clouds and products that they're selling. So it's not just one general admin. It's like, what are you supporting, and are you an expert in that? Is the concept that they're taking now. Obviously the admin and the advanced admin is not going to go away. That's the very core basic level. But if you want to go any beyond that, you can select different paths or where you want to go. I know that I don't have manufacturing experience, and I would not be good at CPQ. I have a sales and marketing background since I sold software, and so I am opting to go the marketing route now.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's definitely a lot out there. It would almost be nice, if there was a little, and maybe there isn't. I haven't seen it, but kind of a trail type deal, right? Like you get with Trailhead of, hey.
Yeah, I can
down.
definitely reach out to Salesforce University and kind of get an idea if there's something that shows what all different paths are. And if I can find something, I'll definitely post and maybe even make a suggestion that, there's something out there that gives people an idea or what are the different paths that they can take. I'm not so sure that the site is completely updated with all the routes you can take.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, there's definitely nice to see some of this coming. Awesome. All right, well, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Deepa, thanks so much again for your time and your expertise. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And he's still on. He said he had a drop, or at least maybe he's still on. But Carlos is our next special guest, returning to us again. He's been on the call once before, so we're excited to have him return back and provide his expertise. As you can see, there's a lot again that we can ask of Carlos. So we're excited to have him on February 17th. Look for that sign up. We'll also post this recording here just a little bit later. So look for that. And thanks everybody for joining. We appreciate your time and the questions. So everyone have a good weekend, and we will see you on the next office hours.